Hello, everyone. Welcome to Capital Corridor Conversations. This is our second Capital Corridor webinar series. I can't see if anybody has joined yet, but we will be getting started very shortly. Oh, there we go. There's our participants who are joining right now. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As I was mentioning earlier, this is our second corridor conversations for Capital Corridor. We had one in September, and we're so happy to have you join us again tonight. For today's event, we will be presenting a few updates for you. And during the chat, during this webinar, we ask that you put any questions that you may have in the chat function right there to the right. And we're going to have all participant cameras turned off, just in terms of housekeeping. Let's see, the chat feature, you can ask us questions about what topics we're speaking about. All of the participants will be muted by default, and we will be posting the replay of the conversation webinar after the event. Here with us tonight, we've got our Managing Director, Rob Padgett. We've got our Deputy Director, Leo Sanchez, our Manager of Planning, Jim Allison, and of course, last but not least, we have our Marketing Communication Specialist, Karen Baker. Hello, everyone. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead. I'm going to introduce Rob right now. Rob Padgett, will you go ahead and join? We've got go to the first slide for Rob.
Thanks, Priscilla. And I wanted to first thank everybody for joining us today. Since we're not doing our CAPI hours, which we hope to do in the not too distant future, this is a really great opportunity for you to join us, ask us questions, and hopefully bridge the gap until we're all back on the train together. And I apologize, someone in my household's printing something next to me. So we're going to cover a bunch of things tonight about safety, about our Thanksgiving plans, and then talk a little bit about some tools we have on board so that you can plan your trip and feel comfortable with that. I do want to just, before I start and hand it over to Leo, who will give us an update on some of the service changes and safety features, I do want to touch on a couple of questions that I've had just over the last couple of days. One is, I know a lot of you have seen a change in the health status of a number of counties in our service areas and have asked, what does that mean for our service? Our plan today is to continue to run the current service levels. We are not expecting to change that as a result of the change in status of any of the counties along our service area. We have lots of safety protocols in place, which we're going to talk about, and are confident that we can deliver that service safely. So don't worry, we're going to be there for you and provide that service. We know some of you have to travel, and we want to make sure that you can do that safely on the train. And then the second question I've had is, what is the new, at the national level, what does a new Biden administration mean to rail in Northern California? And all indications are positive for us. So I think everyone knows that President-elect Biden is a big fan of passenger rail, and we expect to see that in a lot of the policies that are in place. I'm fortunate to be involved in a lot of national level passenger rail activity, including serving as the chair for the state Amtrak Intercity Passenger Rail Committee, and as the treasurer for the States for Passenger Rail Coalition. And through both of those organizations, we expect to be heavily involved. And we think we're really set up here in Northern California to be able to benefit from any sort of infrastructure investment that may happen on the rail side. And all of what we're hearing is that there's an interest in a real balance of transportation, looking at all modes of transportation, and a real interest in investing in infrastructure to help support the growth in our economy. And we think we're well positioned here in Northern California. I should say the other thing that we're excited about is, I think many of you know, we have been cutting edge in terms of technology and are currently, as an example, testing the use of renewable diesel fuel in our locomotives. And we know that the new administration is going to be very interested in a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and we're ahead of the game here in Northern California. And so we're excited about those opportunities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leo, who will give us a quick update on a lot of our safety measures in place. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. All right, so first up on the screen here, we have our weekly ridership as a percentage of, can you go back one slide real quick? I'm just going to highlight on one thing, where we've been and where we are currently. So as you can see, we're still starting to make some small but incremental improvement on our ridership. So we're just around the 15% mark. And, to put it into context, prior to the pandemic, we were hitting right around 6,000 riders per day, Monday through Friday. And then right now, our peak has been right around 1,000, which that was actually not last Friday, but the Friday before that. So just to put it into context for where we're at and where we're moving. So we still have plenty of room to keep you safe and keep you socially distant. So definitely welcome you on board, especially if you need to take our service. And this is a much needed lifeline for a lot of our riders. Next slide.
Leo, I'm going to jump in right here. There is a question that came in, and since this slide does talk about service changes during this time period, one of the questions we have here is that back in June we had a schedule change or increase in service from what we had operated during shelter in place. I know there's a question about whether or not there's another planned schedule increase later. And I know that Rob addressed that earlier, saying that we're going to basically stay with the same schedule format. Are there any other changes that you want to address that might be happening within that format?
Sure thing. Thank you, Priscilla. So, and thanks for the question. So we are going to be continuing to operate the 16 weekday trains for the foreseeable future. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that. And, there's a few things to keep in mind. One is, do we have the capacity to make sure that we're accommodating our riders? And the answer to that right now is yes. And then the second part of that is a financial one. So we want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. So, we're definitely operating within the financial realm where the finances that we're currently allocated. Sorry, I got a quick bubble that popped up here. So we are continuing to operate under our budget, and we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that we can continue to operate our service. Under the new administration, if there is a change and if there's an opportunity to increase our service sooner, we will do that. But primarily, we're going to be focusing on our ridership and making sure that we have plenty of space for everyone, as everyone can see right now, we still do. Next slide. All right. So this next slide is a pretty cool one for anyone that's interested in seeing how we're trending on our trains and what trains are busy, which trains are not. This is our occupancy tracker. So this is a very similar tool that BART is also employing. So you can see here, depending on the train that you're taking and time of day, how you can best keep yourself socially distant, especially if that's your top concern. So right now you can see our occupancy levels are all really safe. I mean, we're well below 30% is about the peak that I'm seeing there at 542. So that's a really encouraging for anyone that's interested in riding with us, just to know that there is plenty of space still available. And you can find this tool on our website. So please follow us on our website, and you can easily access this tool and you can see how we're trending. So we try to update this is based on the previous week's information. So it's not necessarily real time, but we're trying to do as best as we can to keep it updated.
And yes, you can find this on our website, but today we've had a lot of trouble with our website. If you've been there, we're having some issues with our host server, and they're having a very large outage. Of course, technology. And we would have loved to have shown you like a live demo of this, but our site is down. So we are hoping that we'll be up shortly. And we've been waiting all day for that, but we do expect it to be up soon, because this is affecting a lot of other clients, not just us. So check back for it, and you can feel free to use that when you need to find out more about which train to choose.
And then the other thing to highlight here is just that our transit transfer program is coming soon, so stay tuned. We'll be able to hopefully provide you an update here shortly, and we're working really hard on getting this one off the ground. Next slide. And here for everyone to see our health and safety practices employed on our rail cars. So up on the left, you see one of the Amtrak employees fogging a rail car, and this is done daily. And it's something that you can expect. And I know the questions have been asked a couple of times before regarding the chemical that's being used. And this is performicide is the chemical that's being used, and this is the chemical that's being directed by the CDC. So this is industry standard currently. And then you can see up on the right hand side how we're lifting tickets, and we do continue to require masks for everyone riding with us. That's for riders and the safety of the employees as well. And yes, we have plenty of seating still available, so you can continue to see that as you join us on your train travels. Next slide. All right, we do have a quick service update. So this is particularly for those that are ride with us and connect in San Francisco, connect in Emeryville to get to San Francisco. We do have a bus station move, so it's not significantly far away, but it is a change for those of you that have ridden with us before. So it's about a 4-minute walk roughly, and this is in part uh, due to the construction that's impacting the current location. And this is expected to last roughly around 2 years. So it's, semi permanent. And also for those of you that may have taken the Oakland, San Jose, Santa Barbara connection previously, we actually were able to have our prior vendor take over the service. So they actually are continuing to operate that service beginning this month, November 1st. So for those of you that used to take that connection, and this connection is back, and you can continue to take this, and the vendor is going to be providing the service to you.
Really quick, Leo, there's another couple questions that came in about the service. One is a question from Mike Marvam asking about the weekend and holiday frequency, and whether or not there was consideration for increasing the number of trains on the weekends to sort of continue to accommodate social distancing as the holidays approach.
Yeah. So thanks for the question. And so to answer the question, on the weekends, we are providing 10 trains per day. And on the holidays, we're going to be observing our holiday schedule, which that's the standard of what we run normally. But to accommodate for the extra potential extra riders that are going to be with us making their journey during the holidays, we actually are going to be increasing our car consist by 1. So we should have additional space, and that's probably leading into the next few slides when we're talking about ride reserve. But just to address the question regarding capacity, we will be having roughly 25% more capacity during the Thanksgiving week, and that's actually from November 23rd through November 30th that we'll be operating that plan.
Great. And before we jump into that later on, I think that there is another question that came up about the Emeryville San Francisco connections. Curious about the status of switching from using a private contractor to using AC Transit line F instead, or one of the other Transbay lines. That's just a question that has come in asking about the status.
Yeah. So we are continuing to explore working with AC Transit. So we've been in direct communication with them and their leadership team. So right now, at the soonest, we're planning to reconvene back with them. I believe late March is when we agreed with them, just because they have a lot of different challenges that they're facing with for the remainder of this calendar year. So at the start of next calendar year, the intent is to continue those conversations with them. So that is a goal of ours, is to long-term partner up with AC Transit and potentially with the line F as was mentioned.
Great, thank you. We are, let's see, shifting now to the next slide. And the next topic that we have, I'd like to introduce Jim Allison. He is our manager of planning. Um, let's see if we can get the next slide up here, Karen. Great, thank you so much. He is here to talk about next generation Wi-Fi, which I know we're all really excited about.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Priscilla. And thanks for the questions coming in. COVID did affect our Wi-Fi upgrade to our next generation Wi-Fi. We originally installed the first system back in 2011, and since then technology has changed quite a bit. So much so that at this point in time with the new hardware, we can probably give you a service that's about twice as fast and more reliable. And there's a number of reasons behind that, but we can save that for a more technical discussion. But the service should be about twice as fast, and especially now when we don't have as many riders. What normally happens with Wi-Fi is there's a lot of people using the Wi-Fi system. Now there's not as many people, so we can see it in the data. Actually you're going to get about the best experience you can ever get, because we have less riders competing for that resource. So at this point in time, we were hoping to have the whole fleet done, but with the shelter in place, we couldn't do the installs. The vendor couldn't do the installs. So we took about a 2-month time off, and then we got authorized to get back in the yard to retrofit the cars, take out the old equipment and put the new equipment in. And you can see some of that new equipment here in the pictures. They're not always in the luggage rack area, but that is usually they're stored in the cafe car. But with some of our fleet changes, we've had to move kind of the brains of the whole Wi-Fi system to different cars. And this is a picture of one that's atypical. But that is some of the hardware that's installed there, and you can see some of the testing that goes on to make sure there's a positive connection. So we're about 80% installed at this point in time, and we're going to take a break over the Thanksgiving period, and then they're going to be back at it and catch up to the last few cars, and then we have some other cars coming out of maintenance that are going to get the brains of the Wi-Fi installed in them probably later in December, and they'll join the fleet and maybe some last modifications in January. But more or less, you should have a complete fleet certainly by the December holiday period.
So does this mean that people can bring their laptops and devices on board, and mom and dad can work from home on the train, and the kids can do classes on board?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll have to see.
For a change of scenery.
That's a good objective. Yeah, you can ride the train all day and go to school and do your work. That would be impressive. It is a best efforts type system, so the video and everything that running, there are still data limitations in place. So running video and doing the voice can burn through the megabits, and after a while you kind of hit your mark. I think it's probably better to stay at home and do the schooling and other things like that for now. So there's a new landing page, and you saw a little preview of that. The landing page has some new features on it. Share My Train has some audiobooks, some podcasts, and then other content. So now we can switch to it.
Okay.
And this new landing page is with the new SSID, your new connection is your train Wi-Fi. It's not the old Amtrak Connect anymore. So you'll type that in, you'll have some screens to pop through to authorize it, and then you'll end up on the landing page. That looks slightly different whether you're on a smartphone or you're on your laptop, but you can see some of the different features here. Once you authenticate, you can go out to the web, but you can also see your live trip. We're going to be putting content up here and changing it over time. We have a new partner that's engaged with the whole system, and we're excited to see what happens over time. You can also contribute to the photo gallery. That's a fun thing to do. If you have some great train photos, send them to us, and then your photo can be in the online art gallery that we have. We're going to continue to have the magazines. The audiobooks that we have right now are with Audible. That's going to be through the end of the year. And then they're working on getting another partner because Audible's run with the whole thing is going to end on December 31st. But we're really excited about this. Your Train is a way to send information about your trip to a loved one that's coming to pick you up, so they're always in constant contact. So it's a real convenient way to activate somebody to come grab you at your station.
Is that the Share My Train feature, Jim?
Share My Train, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I have for Wi-Fi as far as I understand.
And there's a question here about Your Train Wi-Fi and using that name. Is it on all 3 state-supported routes or just on Capital Corridor?
Good question. Your Train Wi-Fi is just on the Capital Corridor and the San Joaquin route because we share the fleet. The Pacific Surfliner fleet may get this next generation system in the coming year or years. We'll have to see. But we're poised to work with Losan to bring that service to them. But they're working out some fleet things over time. So they have the older system, but we're poised to bring this sort of solution to them. Any other questions?
I don't see any right now, but I'd like to invite any latecomers to please put questions if you have them in our chat feature, and we're happy to answer them for you. Next, I'd like to introduce Karen Baker. She will be talking about the changes that we have for our Thanksgiving travel, which is a little bit different this year.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me and see me? Okay, great. So thanks all for joining this evening. I wanted to share with you just some of the highlights of our Thanksgiving travel. First thing, I just want to remind everyone that we will be running on the weekend holiday schedule on Thanksgiving Day, November 26th, as well as the day after on Friday. And I think Leo mentioned before too that we will be running 5-car trains so that we can make sure that you all have plenty of space on the train. And I've seen some of the bookings that we've had already, and I can assure you all that, we don't have a lot right now. So it really is going to be a good way to travel. There should be plenty of room on all of the cars when you get on the train. We are also limiting our bookings during Thanksgiving week. And I should also emphasize that Thanksgiving week refers to Monday, November 23rd through Monday, November 30th. That's what we really consider our Thanksgiving travel week. Normally, it is our busiest time of year. We don't totally know what it's going to look like this year, but we do expect it to be quite a bit less. So that will really be a good thing during this difficult time. The biggest change that we have this year that we haven't done before is we are requiring reservations during that period from Monday, November 23rd through Monday, November 30th. Now, some of you might be saying, well, that's no change. I make reservations. I booked my trip online anyway. And I guess technically that's true. The difference though this year is that we're going to hold you to that. So we need to make sure that when you travel, that your date and your train that you're traveling on, it matches your ticket. So that's what we mean by requiring reservations. Normally our service is flexible in that you can take a ticket and you can use that ticket on another date and on another train, but that will not be the case during that Thanksgiving week. For those with multi-ride tickets, obviously you have a ticket, but we don't actually know when you're traveling. We don't know what day you're traveling, and we don't know what train you're on. And so Amtrak has actually set up a system on their website and on their app called Ride Reserve. And I'm going to go through some screenshots of that. But basically what Ride Reserve does is it allows you to tell us what day and what train you're going to be riding on by confirming your trips in advance. So I'm going to go through a couple of screenshots and that, just a couple of things. I do want to just remind everyone that, face coverings are required. And so it's going to be really important that everyone have face coverings. I'm sure you're all used to that already. So I'm going to move on to some of these screenshots. So the first screenshot here, and I think the most important thing that we want to let you all know is that because we're requiring reservations, and just for like a regular one ride round trip ticket, if your plans change, we are asking you to go to Amtrak.com or the Amtrak mobile app and actually change your reservation. And so the way you do that is you go to the website. There's a link at the top called Modify Trip. That allows you to put in your reservation number and actually pull up your ticket. And from there, you can change it. You cannot do that on the capitalcorridor.org website, and you cannot do that by calling Capital Corridor's telephone information center. So that is something that actually has to happen through Amtrak. So that's just changing a ticket. Let's talk a little bit about multi-ride tickets. So if you are traveling on a multi-ride ticket, as I mentioned before, we don't actually know what day and what train you're traveling on. So we need to know that. And so Amtrak has a system, it's called Ride Reserve. And it is a way for you to go in, pull up your ticket, and then actually add your intended trips to that ticket. So really quickly, I'll go through this screen here. You would go to Modify Trip, as you do just to change a ticket. You would pull up your reservation by putting in your reservation number. You would then, it will then pull up your multi-ride ticket, and then there's a button that says Find Trains. So if you can see that, it's right under Ticket Tools and it says Find Trains. From there, you'll be able to select your trip details. So that'll allow you to actually pick the trips that you intend to travel on. So then you'll confirm your trip details. So you'll see the different trips that are available on the date that you want, and you simply click on the button that says confirm to the right, and you're done. So those trips are now sort of attached to your multi-ride ticket, if you will. You can go back in, pull up your ticket at any time. You can add new trips, or if you need to change a trip, you can go and cancel one of your trips without any sort of fee being assessed, and then you can add a new trip. So that's how the multi-ticket Ride Reserve program works. And the reason why we're doing all of this, even though we think that ridership is going to be lower and there's going to be space on the train, we want to be able to monitor ridership carefully, and so that everyone has plenty of space on the train. And it's just a way for us to be able to gauge that and know in advance how many people are going to be on particular trains. So I think that covers it for Thanksgiving travel. Just a reminder, modifying tickets, Ride Reserve, make sure you do it through Amtrak.com or the Amtrak app. You can't do that through Capital Corridor. Make sure you wear a face covering. And then one last thing on the Ride Reserve I forgot to mention is you need to do it within a 14-day window of your intended travel. So you can't actually do it outside of that travel window. You need to do it 14 days before the intended travel date. I think that's it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen. All of this is available on our website. So once that's back up, then you can take a look. And I believe even some of the screenshots are there for our multi-ride ticket holders so they can understand how the Ride Reserve portion works. But also all of the information about our Thanksgiving travel is there as we publish every year for our riders. It is a little bit hard to predict this year how the ridership will go. So we just figured it'd be better to be safe and help people choose trains that they will feel comfortable on during this season. And make sure you bring your face mask, everybody. Let's see. I think that is the conclusion of our slides. So I don't know if, looks like there's a couple of questions. Okay. We've got one question here, and I don't know if I know the answer to this, but Roseville residents have monthly Roseville Amtrak passes purchased through Roseville Transportation Department. They don't show as reserved spaces. So how do we ensure an allowance of a ride? If it's a monthly pass issued by Amtrak, you can modify it in the Ride Reserve program. If it's a different one, I don't know, Karen, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to how that works for Roseville, to be
For
honest. We can
reciprocity,
try to
okay.
get back to you on that, but for the Amtrak one or the Capital Corridor, then you'd have to go into amtrak.com and ride reserve.
Okay, so we do need to find out how that works for passes that have reciprocity with other agencies, but we will get back to you on that one and post that information on our site, hopefully, or get back to you personally. Yes, we have several dozen riders from Roseville, so point noted, and we will find out the answer
So
for that.
I'll jump in here. So I know
Okay.
that Amtrak is going to be honoring those passes. So thank you for the question. And the message has been received on the Amtrak side. So they're going to make sure that they honor those. So we shouldn't have anything to worry about on that front. So thank you for raising that issue.
Great.
And,
Thank
and
you,
as
Lynn.
Karen said, the whole reason we're doing this is just so that you have confidence that when you show up on the train, that you're not going to face a crowded car. And we've been tracking our ridership from the beginning of the pandemic, and even on our most crowded trains, we've only had 100 people on the train, which still has plenty of room for social distancing. And we don't expect anything to happen over Thanksgiving to change that. But on the off chance, we're trying to be overly cautious, and we want you to know how seriously we take your safety. To be overly cautious, we have partnered with Amtrak to do this, so that you can show up and you can get on the train. We're not going to keep you off the train because of crowding, and that you can also have space when you get on the train.
Yes, and just to add on to that, I think that, oh, I lost my train of thought. The space on the train, there's a question here, space on the train that's allowed to be used for travel. Our guideline is generally 50% for, our max at this point, given the public health conditions. And for the time period where we're having Thanksgiving reservations for that week, we have capped the bookings at 50%, is my understanding.
And when you reserve if you use the app, you can actually see the percentage, because we're using this ride reserve. You can see the percentage of tickets that have been sold. So maybe, if you want to be on a train that's 10, 15% or 20%, you might choose a different train. If you're comfortable with 30% or 40%, you may, stick with the train that you first chose. So we want to just give you as much information as possible so that you can make your own personal decisions about travel.
Yes, and let's see, there's another question about, are there Capital Corridor face coverings available for purchase on the railgoods.com site yet? Good question. We are working on that. I do expect that we'll be having those soon in the next couple weeks. We had hoped to have them already, but we had a little issue with the supplier and they didn't come in the way that we wanted at the quality that we wanted. So we went back to the drawing board and are sourcing from someone else. So hopefully we'll have some really nice quality face mask coverings available for people on the railgoods.com site soon. Keep an eye out in your CC Rail mail because we'll be announcing that for sure. Let's see. More questions. I can't speak to the Amtrak store promotional products, but I will let them know. It looks like they have some promotional products available in their store, and I will let them know that you're looking for face masks for Amtrak. And we also have another comment here. There are several dozen riders from Roseville, and yes, thank you for continuing to ride. So we're very happy to have you on board and want to answer your questions. So if there are any other questions, I don't see any others. Does anyone else want to add anything from the panel?
Yeah, I had one thing to add, just following up on Leo's service update about the bus, the Santa Barbara to San Jose and Oakland bus. There actually is an added stop in Oakland at the West Oakland BART station. So that is something that we didn't have before. So definitely check out that schedule when the website's up again, because that might be a good option. And it's a good way to sort of then connect to BART, which we didn't have before.
Priscilla, you're in good company with the website being down. YouTube was down for a period yesterday, and my kids were like
Oh no. That's
It will
not
come
a
back
good
up.
day for kids right now.
That's an essential service right now.
Priscilla,
Yes.
would you like me to move on to the next slide so that we
Yes,
can
that would be
let people
great.
know how to, there we go.
Yeah, thank you. So we really want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I don't see any other questions. Oh, hi, Vincent. Yes, you're welcome. And we can't wait to do Cappy Hours in person again sometime, hopefully. But if we do plan to continue these, we do have a new one coming up in December, which will actually focus on bird watching, correct? Is that right, Karen? Bird
Yeah,
watching
we
along the
actually,
route. Yeah.
yeah, we just actually posted that event on our Facebook page. And so you'll probably see an email from us shortly about that. But we have a guest speaker from the Yellow Basin Foundation, and it's birds along the Capitol Corridor route. So fun stuff.
Yeah. So you can hear about that one and about more if you stay in touch with us, stay connected on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course via our email newsletter. You can find all that on our website when it comes back up. But in the meantime, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, of course, as well. So I don't know if anyone else had any questions. When is it possible for the cafe car service return? We have not set a date for cafe car service returning. It's basically suspended at this time due to the public health conditions.
Yeah, and Priscilla, I wanted just to add to say that we do want to hear from everyone. So we are, we're in a crazy time right now, and we want to commend the staff, our partners at Union Pacific and Amtrak, who have really stepped up and delivered really high quality. They're really difficult. And then we want to appreciate all the comments that we've gotten from passengers. We've gotten lots of feedback and input, and some of it, people are concerned about things, and they reach out to us, and we really want to hear from you. So if you have ideas for us or concerns or things you're excited about, or even if you have ideas for one of these sessions that you want to propose, if there's something you want to hear from us, get into more detail. Unfortunately, this is the way we're going to talk to you for the next several months, but we value the opportunity and appreciate everybody's time tonight. So please reach out, don't hesitate.
All right, I think that concludes all of our questions, but thank you, Rob and Leo and Jim and Karen, for providing all this information for our passengers and our audience out there. We hope to see you on board the train again soon. And thank you. And meanwhile, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. That's
Happy
coming
Thanksgiving.
soon.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.